Welcome back, everyone. This will be my non-spoilery Spider-Man No Way Home review. I had a chance to see the movie. It is probably the biggest Spider-Man movie that you will ever see. So if you're new to the channel, we're doing a giveaway for IMAX tickets for the movie. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber and leave your favorite Spider-Man moment from any Spider-Man movie in the comments below. Please don't post big spoilers for people that do get to see the movie early. My full post-credit scene video, full breakdown, Easter eggs videos will all start posting later this week after the movie actually comes out because there is a lot of stuff that we have to talk about. So run, do not walk to go see this movie. You guys have no idea. It completely lives up to all the hype. And normally you think movies get overhyped, you get kind of worried about that. People start to get kind of nervous when movies come out like this. It completely delivers on everything. It's not perfect by any means, and a lot of your enjoyment of the nostalgia that they're going for in bringing back all these Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield Spider-Man villains and all these Easter eggs from all the Spider-Man movies will just depend on how much you enjoyed those older movies. So, for instance, if you're an older fan who has been to see all the Spider-Man movies in the theater, you might enjoy this movie just a little bit more than like a really young kid who's only known the Tom Holland Spider-Man. But if you've been on the fence about Tom Holland's portrayal as Spider-Man, as this younger high school kid Spider-Man in the MCU so far, after you see this movie, Tom Holland will probably be your favorite live-action Spider-Man. I know it's a tall order because Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man 2 is still probably one of the best superhero movies of all time. Not just best Spider-Man movies of all time, but best superhero movies of all time. The animated Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse a couple years ago kind of shook up those rankings. But the thing about Spider-Man No Way Home is that it really is kind of like a live-action Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse type of movie. Not in the exact same way, but you kind of understand. They're doing so many multiverse elements in the film that it really is like a live-action Spider-Verse film. And the funny thing about that is that Tom Holland said that Kevin Feige actually initially pitched that idea as a joke. Like when they were coming up with their early ideas for what Spider-Man No Way Home could be, they all said, "What about a multiverse movie?" And then had a good laugh, like ha 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 ha. But then Kevin Feige said, "But wait, what if we did do it as a multiverse movie?" So we should really all thank Kevin Feige for them bringing back all these super deep cuts. But the basic premise of the movie is that Spider-Man has been doxxed by Mysterio, the whole world knows his secret identity, and he thinks it's going to ruin his life. It seems like it's going to ruin his life. So he goes to Doctor Strange to try and get him to take it back, to erase everyone's memories, but then winds up making things even worse, leading to the barriers between realities breaking down, between the multiverse breaking down, and the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man villains and the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man villains like Green Goblin, Dr. Octopus, Electro, Sandman, the Lizard, all coming to the main MCU reality, and him trying to fix everything in a way that he feels comfortable with, that he feels is like the best way to do it. Which puts him at odds with Doctor Strange, who is trying to find the simplest, quickest way to fix everything. Tom Holland himself said it best in a recent interview when they were doing fan screenings of all the trailers a couple weeks ago. The Spider-Man often winds up shitting on himself because he will always put everyone else before himself.
Spider-Man's biggest superpower is Peter Parker, and that's because of his humility. That's what sets him apart from the rest, is that he's unable to not do the right thing. And for me, as an actor, bringing that to life has been so fun, because it's sometimes incredibly frustrating. Sometimes I read these scripts where I perform these scenes, and I just want Peter Parker to be selfish, just one time. Because he always puts everybody else first, and therefore he kind of shits on himself.
And that is no different during Spider-Man No Way Home. It is a Marvel movie, so yes, it does set up a lot of future things. They do give you teasers and hints, Easter eggs for things that are going to be happening in the next couple of movies like Doctor Strange 2, Multiverse of Madness, the other Marvel Phase 4 movies. There are a lot of minor things that they could turn into much bigger plot points in future Spider-Man films when Tom Holland comes back. But here's the thing, when people call it the biggest Spider-Man movie of all time, the director literally said when they started releasing trailers a little while ago that they're unofficially thinking of the movie as Spider-Man Endgame. So it kind of does for the Tom Holland Spider-Man MCU character the same thing that Avengers Endgame did for the Avengers. It gives them a kind of ending, but also a place to pick up if they want to pick up again. Like, what happened to all the Avengers characters at the end of Avengers Endgame? They all kind of went their separate ways. We knew a couple of them would come back. We knew some of them were probably not going to come back anytime soon. Like, they really gave Iron Man and Captain America endings if those actors wanted it. But because it's science fiction, it's comic book movies, they could come back in ways if they wanted to. So the idea going into Spider-Man No Way Home is that they wanted the movie to feel like an ending of the Homecoming trilogy, like the end of the idea of a high school Spider-Man dealing with high school problems. That's why a little while ago when they were talking about this new Spider-Man trilogy that Tom Holland had supposedly signed on for, Amy Pascal was going on and on about more and more Spider-Man movies with Tom Holland. He said that if they did come back and do more movies, the vibe would be completely different, the tone, the story they would cover, the look and the feel of everything. So once you see the movie, you'll kind of understand, like Avengers Endgame meant to be a definitive end for this chapter in the MCU. Spider-Man Endgame, Spider-Man No Way Home meant to be a definitive end for this chapter of Spider-Man in the MCU. And Tom Holland totally brought it. If you were on the fence about his performance in Spider-Man Homecoming or even Spider-Man Far From Home, that's why I said you'll come out of this movie and he'll probably be your new favorite live-action Spider-Man. The portrayal of Spider-Man that you've always been hoping for in the MCU. It was no mistake when the Russos called him the new most important character in the MCU, hands down. Like we used to talk about Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man character being the new focal point of the MCU, like the most important character, which is why his arc in Avengers Endgame hit so hard. Now that's kind of Spider-Man. Spider-Man is now the new most important character in the MCU because he was there for everything during the Infinity Saga movies. He was a kid watching all the Avengers come together. He was there for Avengers Infinity War, Avengers Endgame, and he'll be there for everything that's happening next. So he is like the ultimate MCU point of view character right now. I have a feeling that his lawyers are going to make sure that he gets paid for those new Spider-Man movies that he comes back for eventually. We are talking Robert Downey Jr. money. And while they were sort of using this as a giant bookend to the Homecoming trilogy, it also kind of feels like a sequel to the Sony Spider-Man movies. Like there is so much nostalgia, so many Easter eggs, so many things that they brought back from the Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield Spider-Man movies that at times Spider-Man No Way Home feels kind of like Spider-Man 6 instead of like a sequel to the Tom Holland MCU Spider-Man movies. Like you have the 3 Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies, 1, 2, and 3, then you have the 2 Andrew Garfield Amazing Spider-Man movies, then you have this movie. Like you could watch those first 5, then this, and it would feel like a complete arc. So that's like the new speed run version of Spider-Man. Like if you're watching all the Spider-Man movies, but you want to do it in the quickest possible way, just watch Spider-Man 1, 2, you could probably skip Tobey Maguire Spider-Man 3, watch Andrew Garfield's Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2, and then Tom Holland's Spider-Man No Way Home. I myself was a big fan of all the nostalgia, all the Easter eggs, because I saw all those old Spider-Man movies, Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield movies in the theater, so it was fun to see them bring all these really cool things back. And it wasn't just the Sinister Six villain characters themselves. There were a lot of music Easter eggs, a lot of visual Easter eggs, auditory Easter eggs. The same way that the animated Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse movie played 4-dimensional chess with the way they incorporated Easter eggs. Like you could watch that movie 10 times and still find new Easter eggs baked into everything. The music was amazing. There was a leak, I think a week ago, so some of you may have heard some of the music tracks. Michael Giacchino went hard. He did not have to go this hard. It was amazing. Because the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies and Andrew Garfield Spider-Man movies are such a big part of this, obviously a lot of the music from their movies are baked into and remixed with the Tom Holland MCU movie music. So there's a lot of really cool remixed Spider-Man music tracks with Easter eggs for all the versions of Spider-Man. Talking about the villains too, Green Goblin, definitely the main villain of the film, Willem Dafoe understood the assignment when he came back for this. He has so much fun in this movie. He is every bit the Green Goblin you remember him to be from that first Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movie. The other Sinister Six villains weren't quite as big of characters as Green Goblin was, but they all do get really good arcs. Alfred Molina's Dr. Octopus is every bit as good as he was during Spider-Man 2. Jamie Foxx's Electro probably got the biggest upgrade just because I feel like they kind of did him a disservice during The Amazing Spider-Man 2, so he actually feels legit during this movie. Sandman and Lizard were kind of lesser characters, but they still did get some good story during the film. But that's why you didn't see Thomas Hayden Church and Rhys Ifans doing a lot of press with the other 3 Sinister Six villains. And even though it is 5 villains, they are really going for Sinister Six vibes. There's so many other things that we could talk about, but I don't want to get into it till we're all talking about spoilers after the movie comes out later this week. I will say that if you have a really strong feeling about what's going on with this movie, you're at least partially right. There were still a lot of surprises, a lot of things that I did not expect. But it is definitely my favorite Marvel movie of the year, one of my favorite movies overall of the year, just in general, of any kind. And it is an awesome way to close down the year. So that is why I say run, do not walk to go see this movie. 1, to avoid any potential spoilers, because everybody on the planet is going to be talking about this in a couple days. But also because it's just a really good movie. Yes, there are multiple post-credit scenes. Do stay through the entire credits. You don't have a movie this big that you've been hyping up for so long without having a couple really, really huge post-credit scenes. Don't worry, I will do full videos for everything that's going on during those after the movie comes out on Thursday and Friday. What'll happen is I might do a full review video, like my spoiler review, on Thursday night, and then start doing my post-credit scene videos on Friday and my full breakdown videos over the weekend. But it'll take at least a week or two to get through all the big Spider-Man things that we need to talk about. But don't worry, I will be doing a ton of Spider-Man videos between now and the end of the year, just to cover everything. Once you do have a chance to see the movie, just post all your reactions in the comments below. My full Hawkeye Episode 5 video will post next, and then like I said, all my Spider-Man No Way Home full videos will start posting after that. Everyone click here for all my Spider-Man No Way Home videos and Easter eggs, and click here for my Hawkeye Episode 5 Yelena Belova trailer video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone stay safe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.